Hello, my name is Omar. We're here at Functional Core Fitness, and today we're covering exercise 9 in the Independence Through Movement series. All right, exercise 9. It is the lateral step, side to side. Now, why is that important? For many reasons. And reason number 1, because this is the Independence Through Movement series, we have to learn how to move side to side without losing our balance. That's learning how to move side to side without twisting an ankle. So as easy as sidestepping might be, there's a lot to go with it. So today what we're going to do is we're going to cover an exercise that will mimic that side-to-side movement, and we'll teach the mechanics behind the footwork of the side-to-side movement. All right, so let's cover the side-to-side movement. So it is this. That's all it is. But if you notice, the first point of contact when I step side to side is that I'm not sidestepping and landing with my heel. If I land with my heel, I'm going to absorb a lot of shock. I want my muscles to absorb the shock. I don't want my joints to absorb the shock. If I focus on the proper mechanics of the landing and just land on the balls of the feet versus my heels, I will be able to decelerate the movement much easier. If I land on my heel, I can't really decelerate softly. I mean, I can, but the brunt of the impact is going to be absorbed by the joints, and I want to make sure that I absorb it through the muscles. Now, the easiest way that I can describe this landing on the balls of the feet versus the heels is when we jump rope. If we jump rope, I'm going to jump rope through the balls of my feet. I wouldn't jump through my heels. My body just doesn't work that way. So we're going to use that concept of how the body works through the spring of your ankles, and we're going to utilize that into our side lateral step. So first, let's discuss the lateral step, and then we'll discuss the exercise. When I step, I want to make sure that I land on the balls of my feet. Once I land on the balls of my feet, my ankles, my knees, and my hips create a spring. Okay. That spring allows me to absorb the shock, and my center of gravity lowers, which then keeps me closer to the ground to prevent me from tipping over. So if I decelerate, I lower my center of gravity. I now didn't absorb the majority of that shock, and now I'm closer to the ground, so less likely to tilt. If I stand up tall, I can tilt easier. So I want to make sure that I absorb the shock. Now, the best way I can describe this is if we look at a sport that requires a run with some type of cut to avoid an opponent. So I used to be a football player, so I'll use the football analogy. If someone were running towards me and I want to avoid the tackle, I would lower my center of gravity and cut the opposite direction. But in order for me to cut, I'd have to lower my center of gravity. I wouldn't cut standing tall because I wouldn't be able to change directions much easier. So with that same concept, even though it doesn't feel that way out in the world, but we're pretty much dodging things all the time. Whether it's people walking opposite of us, objects on the floor that we see that we want to step over. So we're always lateral stepping. Now we know the concept of the lateral step. So now let's add an exercise. So for beginners, what we'll do is we'll stand on one leg. Once we stand on that one leg, it doesn't have to be high, you can if you like. And then we're just going to take a big step. Lateral step. Now, when I land, I'm landing on the balls of my feet. I'm not cutting too much because I'm not changing directions. I'm actually stopping, stabilizing onto one leg. So I'm not decelerating too much. There's a small deceleration, but not too much. Depending on the speed and how fast we want to cut, or the speed, will determine the lowering of the center of gravity. If I was going fast, I really want to make sure that I cut and lower my center of gravity. But this one, I don't have to lower it too much because I'm in a stabilizing position and then stepping to the side. Okay, I'm also using my arms and my legs. When I walk, I swing my arms opposite of the leg that's in front. They call that contralateral. I wouldn't walk ipsilateral, same side, because I would rock too much. So I'm going to mimic that same movement and use it in my exercise. Lateral steps. Now, I can also intensify the exercise by increasing the distance of my step. Now, if I wanted to be a little bit more athletic, I can jump, or I can really go side, So that's called an ice skater. So the lateral step can develop into a very high intensified movement. So that is the lateral step. Now, we don't just lateral step and open our hips. There are times that we lateral step and cross over. Once we cross over the midline, things become very dangerous. If someone bumps into us and we have to cross our legs not by choice, but because we had to, then we have to be able to cross our leg and still not lose our balance. So we can challenge the other lateral step, and that other lateral step would be a crossover step. Now I can always cross over front side, and I can also cross over side or backside. So this is a backside lateral step. This is a front side lateral step. Now if you notice, my hips turned. I don't turn my body. My upper and lower body have to separate in order for me to rotate, and keep my shoulders square. Because if I hit and I rotate, then all of a sudden I lose my balance. So I want to make sure that I can keep my shoulders at least square and rotate my hips. So that is your lateral step. You have your lateral step to the open hip, and then also you have your lateral step with the crossover front side and back side crossover. I'm opening up my hips. I'm not just stepping and not utilizing my hips. I'm opening. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Side lateral step, and also involving or including the crossover lateral step as well. Very important for everyday life, and also important in sports when we have to go in a higher velocity cut. Hope you enjoyed it, and always remember, train smart, train hard, and stay independent. We will see you next week for the hip hinge.